What is the Sphinx really hiding? This question has haunted humanity for thousands of years. Because this colossal stone being, standing in the silence and sand of the Giza Plateau, does not feel like an ordinary statue. It feels like it knows something. It feels like it is guarding the secret of a world long forgotten. And maybe the most unsettling part is this. Today, we talk endlessly about the pyramids. We debate the pharaohs, we study tombs, we decode inscriptions. But the Sphinx still refuses to speak. Its mouth is closed. Its face looks forward. And its gaze seems to pass straight through us, reaching toward a time far beyond memory. So what is this ancient giant hiding? A tomb? Hidden chambers? Lost knowledge? Or a past far older than humanity dares to imagine? Today, we are going to look behind the stone face of the Sphinx. Through legends, archaeology, theories, and dark possibilities. Because sometimes a monument is not just stone. Sometimes a monument is the last word of a forgotten sentence. The Great Sphinx of Giza is one of the most recognized symbols in the world. With the body of a lion and the head of a human, this massive structure stands near the pyramids of Giza. It is about 73 meters long and around 20 meters high. The fact that it was carved from a single limestone outcrop already makes it extraordinary. But the real mystery is not just its size. The mystery is its position, its direction, its expression. Because the Sphinx does not look like an ordinary guardian standing in front of a grave. It looks more like a silent watcher standing at the edge of something sacred. The lion's body may symbolize strength and royal power. The human face may symbolize intelligence and authority. But this combination does not feel accidental. It feels intentional. As if the ones who created it were not simply making the image of a ruler, but trying to show a union between body and mind, earth and sky, man and God. And that is where the question becomes larger. If this statue is only a symbol, why is it so mysterious? If it is only the face of a pharaoh, why did so many legends gather around it? If it is only a monument, why have people believed for centuries that something lies hidden beneath it? The most widely accepted view is that the Sphinx was built during the Old Kingdom, most likely in the time of Pharaoh Khafre, around 4,500 years ago. This theory is mainly based on the architectural relationship between the Sphinx and Khafre's pyramid complex. Some also believe that the face resembles Khafre. But there is no complete certainty here, because the Sphinx does not carry a clear inscription saying, "I was built by this pharaoh." The kind of direct evidence we see on many other Egyptian monuments is missing here, and that absence opened the door to countless theories. Some researchers believe the Sphinx may be older than Khafre, much older. So old, in fact, that some claim it could date back to a time before dynastic Egypt itself. That idea may sound extreme, but one of the main reasons behind it is the weathering visible on the body of the Sphinx. According to some geologists, parts of that erosion do not look like the result of wind and sand alone. They point to vertical patterns that suggest long exposure to heavy rainfall. And that is where everything becomes complicated. Because Giza is a desert and has been dry for a very long time. So if those marks really were caused by water, then the Sphinx might be far older than official history says. Maybe thousands of years older. Maybe from another climate age. Maybe the final witness of a forgotten civilization. And at that point, the Sphinx stops being just a statue and starts becoming a time capsule. Because if it truly is older than we think, then we have to ask a dangerous question. Who built it? Why did they build it? And why here? The Giza Plateau does not feel random. We know that the pyramids, temples, and pathways were built with deliberate alignments. Ancient Egyptians watched the sky closely, attached meaning to the stars, and connected architecture with cosmic order. That makes the eastward gaze of the Sphinx especially important. Every morning, the sun rises in front of its face. This may symbolize rebirth, resurrection, the solar cult, and divine order. To some, the Sphinx represents the pharaoh's power on earth. To others, it is part of something much greater. Maybe the Sphinx is not simply greeting the sun. Maybe it is guarding the secret of the sun itself. Because in the ancient world, the east was never just a direction. It was the gate of beginning, light, and life. And every gate has its guardian dot. In ancient Egypt, the image of a lion with a human head was not new. Similar figures existed to express royal power, sacred protection, and divine authority. But the Sphinx of Giza is different from all of them. It is singular. It is colossal. It stands apart. And most importantly, it is silent. There are not enough texts around it. There are no detailed carvings explaining its story. No long inscriptions telling us exactly what it means. It almost feels as if it was meant to remain silent. As if those who made it wanted people to feel its meaning, rather than fully understand it. And because of that, human imagination rushed in to fill the gaps. Some believed there were tunnels beneath it. Others imagined hidden halls underground. Still others claimed that world-changing records, the so-called Hall of Records, were buried below the Sphinx. This idea became especially popular in modern esoteric circles. People said that ancient knowledge from Atlantis, sacred information preserved before global catastrophes, or lost sciences of forgotten ages restored beneath its paws. Mainstream archaeology does not accept these claims. But the important question is this: why do these theories stay alive so powerfully? Because the Sphinx itself almost forces people to think that way. There is something about its appearance that resists a simple explanation. Not just physically, psychologically. When you look at it, you do not just see stone. You feel intention. As if something is saying, there is meaning here. But it will not be handed to you. Throughout history, many people saw the Sphinx buried in sand. Because for centuries, the desert repeatedly swallowed it. Wind covered its body. Time almost erased it. At times, only the head remained visible. Imagine that. A vast stone lion, buried under the sand, showing only its face for centuries. That image alone is haunting. And maybe that is why the Sphinx was never seen as just an archaeological structure. It felt more like a ghost. Even the ancient Egyptians may have regarded it as an old and sacred being. During the New Kingdom, it was associated with names such as Hormukhet, meaning Horus of the horizon. That suggests that the Sphinx was not just an ancient ruin from the past, but still an active sacred presence for later generations. In other words, even the Egyptians may not have belonged to the generation that created it. Maybe they inherited it. And that idea is deeply unsettling. What if the Sphinx is so old that even the pharaohs did not fully understand it? What if the rulers of Egypt themselves knew only its surface? What if it is a stone memory standing inside Egyptian history? But older than Egypt itself? The face of the Sphinx carries its own mystery. Whose face is it? The official answer is that it most likely represents Pharaoh Khafre. But not everyone is convinced. Some argue that the facial proportions do not match. Others believe it may have been reworked in a later age. There's even a theory that the original head represented something else entirely, and was later reshaped into a human face. This has never been proven, but it remains intriguing. Because the head appears small in proportion to the body. And that makes some people wonder if the original monument may have had a much larger animal head. If that were true, then the Sphinx in front of us would not be the product of a single moment in history, but a monument altered, reinterpreted, and transformed over time. And if that is the case, then understanding what it originally meant becomes even more difficult. Because then we are not looking at one message, but at layers of messages. A stone text written over and over again. The missing nose of the Sphinx is another part of the mystery. Many people blame Napoleon's soldiers, but there is no firm proof for that famous story. In fact, some drawings show the nose missing even before Napoleon arrived in Egypt. So the damage may be much older. Was it deliberate? Was it natural destruction? We do not know for certain. But the missing nose changes the expression of the face. When you look at it, you feel absence. It almost seems as if the monument was deliberately silenced, its identity partially erased. And the human mind hates empty spaces. So every missing piece becomes the beginning of a new legend. Why was the nose broken? Where did the beard go? Whom did the face really represent? What kind of headdress did it once wear? The lack of complete answers pushes the Sphinx away from history and closer to myth. But the greatest mystery of all is what may lie beneath it. For centuries, people have claimed that hidden chambers, tunnels, or sealed passages may exist under the Sphinx. These claims come from many different sources. Some are based on archaeological observations. Some come from geophysical scans. Others come from pure esoteric prophecy. Especially in the 20th century, certain measurements were interpreted as signs of underground voids or anomalies in the area. But data like that is rarely simple. Natural rock formations, cracks, or traces of earlier construction could create similar results. Even so, the idea of hidden spaces never died, because the physical role of the Sphinx already feels like that of a threshold guardian. Its hybrid form, half human and half lion, only strengthens that idea. In mythology, hybrid beings often guard boundaries. They stand between life and death, sacred and ordinary, known and unknown. So it feels natural to imagine that the Sphinx stands before the entrance to something. Maybe a tomb. Maybe a ceremonial path. Maybe a chamber of preserved knowledge. This is where the legend of the Hall of Records enters the story. According to this legend, the knowledge of an ancient civilization was preserved beneath the Sphinx in the form of tablets, archives, or sacred records. Some say that civilization was Atlantis. Others say it belonged to a highly advanced people who lived before the flood. Others claim that Egyptian priests stored wisdom inherited from far older traditions. The scientific world does not support these ideas. There is still no proven evidence that such a hall exists. But one question remains important. Why was this legend attached specifically to the Sphinx? Why not to some other monument? Because the Sphinx truly looks like the guardian of an archive. The pyramids can be explained as tombs or royal monuments. But the Sphinx feels like pure symbol. And pure symbols make the strongest keepers of secrets. They do not offer their meaning openly. They force us to approach, but refuse to open fully. Like a riddle. And that connection becomes even more striking when we remember that in later traditions, the word Sphinx also became linked with a creature that asks riddles. Even though the Greek Sphinx and the Egyptian Sphinx are not the same being, the shared pattern is powerful. Both stand at the threshold. Both connect knowledge with danger. Both refuse passage without understanding. Maybe the real question is not, what is physically hidden beneath the Sphinx? Maybe the real question is, what idea? What knowledge? What cosmic truth is the Sphinx protecting? Because in the ancient world, monuments were never mere decoration. Every measure, every direction, every proportion could carry meaning. A monument could be built to reflect the order of the universe on Earth. A temple could be aligned to speak with the stars. A tomb could be designed for the soul's journey into the sky. And if the Sphinx belongs to that world, then what it hides may not be treasure at all, but cosmology. Maybe the key to the pharaoh's transformation into a divine being. Maybe the secret of the sun's death and rebirth cycle. Maybe a sacred teaching about the balance between instinct and consciousness. The union of lion body and human head may mean more than strength and intelligence. It may represent the struggle between raw power and awakened mind. In that sense, the Sphinx may be a stone lesson. It may be saying, power without consciousness is blind, and consciousness without mastery over power leads to ruin. Another important point is this. In ancient Egypt, death was central to everything. But death was not seen as annihilation. It was seen as passage, a process in which the soul was tested, transformed, judged, and joined a greater order. That is why tombs, temples, and symbols were all used to guide that transition. If the Great Pyramids of Giza are connected to the journey after death, then it makes sense that the Sphinx would stand as guardian of that sacred zone. In that case, what the Sphinx protects may be the secret of death itself, the knowledge that separates an ordinary life from entry into divine eternity. Who may pass? Who may rise? Who may step into the infinite? Because guardians do not always protect what lies behind the gate. Sometimes they test those who try to enter. Maybe that is why the Sphinx feels so overwhelming. Because when you face it, it almost feels as if something is judging you. As if you are not just looking at it, but it is also looking at you. In Greek mythology, the Sphinx sits near Thebes and asks a riddle to all who approach. Those who fail to answer are destroyed. This figure does not come from the exact same tradition as the Egyptian Sphinx, but the connection is not meaningless. The human mind naturally associates the Sphinx with riddles. And maybe that instinct is correct. Maybe the Sphinx is not hiding something. Maybe the Sphinx itself is the hidden thing. Maybe the secret is not underground. Maybe the secret is in its form, its direction, its proportions, its silence. And maybe we have been looking in the wrong place the entire time. People search for tunnels, chambers, and buried doors. But maybe the greatest mystery is the thing standing directly in front of us. Maybe we have been staring at it for thousands of years, and still do not truly understand what we are seeing. And that possibility may be even more unsettling than a hidden chamber. Think about it. If the Sphinx were only a royal portrait, why would it create such a universal effect? Why would even modern people feel strangely diminished in its presence? Why does it affect children, travelers, historians, and conspiracy theorists all at once? Because the Sphinx speaks a visual language that goes beyond history. It reaches something primal inside us. The lion body makes us feel power. The human face makes us feel mind. The massive scale makes us feel timelessness. Its isolation in the desert makes us feel loneliness. And when those emotions come together, they create the idea of a guardian. And guardians always protect something. Some researchers focus on the structures surrounding the Sphinx. The Sphinx Temple, the Valley Temple, and the ceremonial pathways suggest that this was never just a single statue in an empty place. It was part of a larger sacred arrangement. A monument on this scale, placed in such an architectural system, likely had a ritual purpose. Maybe ceremonies took place here at specific times of year. Maybe rites connected to the pharaoh's union with the sun were performed here. Maybe a cosmic drama known only to select priests was enacted in its shadow. If so, then what the Sphinx hides may not be physical at all, but ritual. A tradition preserved not in written text, but in movement, timing, sunlight, and sacred words. And secrets like that are hard to uncover, because digging into the ground is not enough. You also have to understand the language of symbols. There's also a simpler but powerful possibility. Maybe what the Sphinx is hiding is humanity's ignorance of its own past. Maybe the mystery is not under the monument, but beyond the limits of our knowledge. As modern people, we often approach ancient structures with technical questions. When was it built? Who built it? How was it carved? What kind of stone was used? These are important questions. But for ancient people, meaning was never limited to technique. The sky was alive. Stone was sacred. Directions had spiritual importance. A statue was not just art. It was a way of negotiating with the universe. So when we treat the Sphinx as nothing more than an engineering object, maybe we miss its true purpose. It may not be a stone machine at all. It may be a sacred idea. And because that idea does not fit neatly into modern categories, the monument always feels incomplete to us. There is also something deeply powerful in the stillness of the Sphinx. The pyramids rise sharply toward the sky, but the Sphinx stays close to the earth. It lies down. It waits. That posture does not suggest an animal attacking. It suggests power under control. It is motionless, yet threatening. It does not look asleep, yet it does not look alive either. It is a perfect in-between form. And in-between forms are always disturbing, because they refuse easy classification. Is it human? Is it animal? Is it divine? Is it royal? Is it a guardian of the dead? Is it a symbol of the sun? Is it a figure of wisdom? That uncertainty increases its power, because the things we cannot fully name often affect us the most. Many people say that standing before the Sphinx feels like standing at a break in time itself, not only because it is ancient, but because its face carries an expression that survived entire ages. It is not fully angry, not fully peaceful, not friendly, not hostile. And that keeps the mind working, because we cannot fix its expression into one emotion. It seems to change depending on who is looking at it. Someone fearful sees a threat. Someone curious sees a guide. Someone spiritual sees something sacred. Someone skeptical sees an unsolved problem. In that sense, the Sphinx reveals not only something about the past, but also something about the observer. Maybe what it hides is the answer inside us. Maybe when we look at it, we are also looking into our own unknown. And now we arrive at the most disturbing possibility of all. What if the Sphinx carries a warning humanity has forgotten? Many ancient civilizations tell stories of collapse, cycles, floods, dark ages, and divine punishment. Maybe the Sphinx was raised after some great disaster. Maybe it was placed there as a sign for future generations, as if to say, look closely. Even what seems eternal can fall. Knowledge can be lost. Civilization can disappear beneath the sand. If that is true, then what the Sphinx hides is not technology or treasure, but memory. A wordless memory written in stone. And maybe that is why it remains silent. Because some warnings are not delivered through speech. They are delivered simply by enduring. As archaeology moves forward, New scans, new measurements, and new interpretations continue to appear. Every generation looks at the Sphinx again. Some study what may lie below it. Some analyze its face. Some examine its geological scars. Maybe one day new chambers will be found. Maybe they will not. Maybe a hidden void will finally be confirmed. Maybe every grand theory will collapse. But whatever happens, one thing will remain the same. The Sphinx will continue to symbolize humanity's hunger for the unknown. Because some monuments do not lose their power when we learn more about them. Instead, every answer creates a new question. If a chamber is found tomorrow, we will ask who built it. If nothing is found, we will ask why generations believed so strongly that something must be there. In other words, the mystery has grown larger than the monument itself. Maybe that is why the best way to understand the Sphinx is not as a historical problem alone, but as one of humanity's oldest mirrors. Because for thousands of years, countless eyes have looked at it. Pharaohs looked at it. Priests looked at it. Conquerors looked at it. Travelers looked at it. Scientists looked at it. Photographers, tourists, mystics, doubters, all of them looked at it. And each saw something slightly different. Very few monuments can do that. Very few things can remain at the center of both scientific investigation and mythological imagination for so long. That is what the Sphinx does. Which is why the answer to our question may not fit into a single sentence. So what is the Sphinx really hiding? Maybe an underground void. Maybe the symbols of an ancient cult. Maybe the most powerful expression of royal ideology. Maybe ritual knowledge about the afterlife. Maybe a geological clue suggesting that human history is deeper than we think. Or maybe it is hiding nothing physical at all. Maybe it is only protecting an idea. The threshold of the unknown. The question itself. Because sometimes true power lies not in giving an answer, but in keeping the question alive. And maybe that is the greatest secret of the Sphinx. It never gives us certainty. Because once certainty arrives, the search ends. But some monuments are made for the search itself. To make us stop. To make us look. To make us think. To make us uneasy. This giant being lying in the sands of Giza has been doing one thing for thousands of years, waiting for people to come, to stare, to theorize, to fear, to admire, but never to be fully sure. And maybe that is why it still feels powerful. Because in a modern world obsessed with explaining everything, the Sphinx stands like a stone refusal. It says, "You will not know everything. Not every door opens. Not every secret is told. Maybe one day our technology will become even more advanced. Underground scans will become clearer. New chambers may be discovered. New texts may be decoded. New connections may emerge. And maybe then much of what we think we know about the Sphinx will change. But will its full mystery ever disappear? I am not sure. Because some structures cast a shadow larger than their material form. And the Sphinx is one of them. It is not only stone. It is an atmosphere. A weight. A form of silence. And sometimes silence is more powerful than a scream. So let us ask one final time. This giant figure, alone in the desert, face turned toward the horizon, body half buried in earth, nose broken, voiceless, yet capable of holding the eyes of millions. What is it really hiding? Maybe the past. Maybe death. Maybe power. Maybe lost knowledge. Maybe an ancient warning standing against human arrogance. Or maybe simply this truth. The greatest secrets are not always buried underground. Sometimes they stand directly in front of us. And to see them, we do not need to dig. We need to ask the right question. The Sphinx is still there. Every morning, the sun rises before it. The wind touches its stone body. Tourists take photographs. Scientists measure. Theories are born, broken, and reborn. But the monument itself remains the same. The same silence. The same gaze. The same heavy waiting. And maybe that is why, even after thousands of years, it still creates the same feeling inside us. As if it knows something. As if it has seen more than we can imagine. As if it ever spoke, a forgotten curtain would suddenly lift from the history, not only of Egypt, but of humanity itself. But it does not speak. It only waits. Maybe for the right time. Maybe for the right person. Maybe for neither. Because some guardians are not there to open the gate. They are there to make sure we never forget that the gate exists.